Hello, everyone. So I think it's about time for us to begin. So I just thought that, well, in the first place, I'd like to welcome you all to our course in contracts. And to me, it's a very important course because it allows us to examine the overarching framework, which actually affects the way that people deal with each other, especially every time we would, either ride on a bus or pay for fuel, or probably go to Kohl's or to Woolies to buy something, or even when we go online, make some purchases. There is an understanding that there is a law of contracts that overrides all of these transactions in our daily lives. And we often begin to wonder as well, like when we have, familial relationships, and we sometimes make commitments to our relatives, whether they be parents or even to our children. When we make certain promises, does it mean that the promises that we make become binding obligations? And these are some of the themes that we will be exploring in the context of our course in contracts law. But instead of because it's just the first day of term 3, instead of so Sophie can't hear my voice. Can the others hear me? Oh, you could. Okay. Sophie, it might be your headphone or headset. Okay, so because it is the first day of term 3, and I love the start of process again, I'd rather go slow, and we will not be touching on any of the substantive topics, and instead I'd like us to talk about the challenges of. I'm just going to mute those who aren't going to be talking. Okay. There. So what I'd like to do rather is to share my experiences about the challenges that students face in the context of a distance education. My purpose of doing that is to just flag to your attention the distinct challenges of trying to complete a course when it's done online. There's obviously a huge advantage in studying by distance mode because there's a lot of flexibility, and you can determine when you'd like to go through the learning content, and you can study at your own pace. In a sense, you don't really have to go to any physical classroom to attend any of the lectures or any of the tutorials. And so it allows you a lot of freedom, especially if you might have family commitments or you might be working somewhere. The problem, however, is that if you study by distance mode, and for those of you who've been here, who have been enrolled in the program in the previous terms, and for those who are just about to embark in their learning journey towards having an LLB, the problem, however, is that because there is a lack of routine, there is a lack of regimen, there's a lack of structure in terms of what needs to be done to get tasks completed, there is a natural temptation, especially on the part of human beings, to just postpone things. And so therefore, instead of beginning to work on the important tasks, we delay them. And before we know it, it's about to be the end of the term. And it becomes a worrying thing because what usually happens is that at the end of a term, more than 20% of students end up having a grade of either an absent fail, which means that they actually failed to take any of the major assessments, or they end up with a not sat, which means that maybe perhaps the final assessment was something that the student failed to take. But what it all means is that whether you have a not sat or an absent fail, it still appears, I think, in your student record as a fail. And it just becomes so unfortunate because we do have a point, which is the census state, when students who might be struggling with the student workload as well as other academic commitments or perhaps work commitments or other family commitments, they actually have an option of just deciding to, take the course of dropping out officially, because in that case, they don't even have to pay any tuition fees. And so what I'd like to do, therefore, is to kind of remind you that it is crucial that although there's a lot of flexibility on your part to be studying at your own pace, it is crucial that you, in fact, impose certain deadlines on yourselves and be very clear about timelines, be very clear about deadlines for assessments. Because, for example, in our course, we do have 5 assessments. So we have a midterm written assessment, which consists of a legal memorandum, and that would comprise 40% of the final grade. We also obviously have a final written take-home paper, which again comprises 40% of the final grade. But we do have 2 quizzes, which comprise 15%, and then there is a semester plan. So given the fact that there are 5 key assessments that you need to work on, it is crucial, therefore, that you be aware of timelines and deadlines. And the semester plan, for example, is there mainly because we're hoping that you spend time really planning on how to finish the course successfully, this course in particular. The reason for that is that you need to put your attention to what potentially can make it difficult for you to finish the course. And so whether it's a travel you need to do at some point, or it could be a family commitment, or a sudden demand in your job, these are things that you need to factor in your daily activities and in your plans to make sure that you set yourselves enough time that would guarantee that all of the assessments in our course will be completed on time. So that's crucial, because it's often surprising how it is that 20% of students would end up not completing the course. And the problem really is that oftentimes when it is the start of a term, we have high hopes, we are quite excited, and you always know that you want to become a lawyer and you want to put in the effort. But as time passes, and especially when you become confronted with the daily tasks of life, with all the other activities that can occupy you, it just becomes so easy to kind of neglect putting the required effort in understanding contract law, for example. And obviously, when you speak of ensuring that you do well in a written assessment, whether it's the legal memorandum or the final take-home paper, we obviously have the assumption that you would have studied sufficiently to be able to respond and answer comprehensively and correctly all the problem cases that would be in those assessments. So in other words, if you don't study, if you don't put in the effort of actually studying for this course, then it's quite likely that you will not complete it successfully. And that would be very unfortunate, because this is something that you have been forewarned about. This is something that you could obviously prepare for. So I just encourage you to start thinking about creating a plan, which is going to be part of the assessment, which is the semester plan. Start thinking about what needs to be done to make sure that you complete the course. And it's crucial, therefore, that you finish the semester plan, for example, because if you submit a semester plan which is genuine and you put in a sincere effort to actually come up with something that would indicate that you've actually thought about all the potential challenges that you can possibly face for you to finish the course, then you will easily get 5% of the final grade. So you get that. And that 5% can make a huge difference later on between getting an HD or a D, or between a pass or a fail, or between a pass or a credit. So don't waste those small opportunities to just start putting more marks into your final grade. And that's one. The other one obviously would of course be ensuring that you find time to do the online quizzes, because the online quizzes comprise 15% of the final grade. So you have to make sure that you are aware when these quizzes have been scheduled, and they are in our Moodle site, and they are in the course profile as well, so that you can confidently say to yourself that at the time you take any of these online quizzes, you have in fact sufficiently prepared yourself to make sure that you do quite well in these online quizzes, because it will be such a waste of an opportunity if you don't even bother to prepare for the online quizzes, because the online quizzes, as I said, comprise 15%. So make sure that you constantly, spend time reading your notes, reading your textbook, making sure that you're always logging into our Moodle site once, twice, 3 times a week, just for you to know that what's going on in our course. And I would also imagine that it will also be very helpful for you to actually reach out to your fellow students and try to develop your own study groups. Because in that case, if there are certain principles that you find confusing or difficult to understand, then you can have the benefit of other of your peers helping you out. And obviously, you're quite free to send me a question in the Q&A in our Moodle site, and then I'll get the chance to elucidate any of the confusing or more difficult key principles. And so I encourage you, therefore, to come up with study groups and work with each other, because not only will the study groups be not only will they provide you an opportunity to learn from each other, but the study groups, in a sense, actually help each of you to be motivated to finish the course. And there's nothing better than having somebody to constantly remind you that you're quite close to completing the course, and all it does take is to just put in the needed effort and the needed time to complete our course. So so that's the first thing that I'd like to say. So let me just repeat that as far as the assessments are concerned, we have 5 assessments in the course. So we have the final written assessment, which comprises 40% of the final grade. And then we do have the legal memorandum, which again comprises 40% of the final grade. And then we have 2 quizzes, which comprise 50% of the final grade. And then we have a semester plan, which I think is due in week 4. And that would comprise 5% of the final grade. Now, the question that you might want to ask is, what should you be doing? For example, from your viewpoint, what should I be doing to ensure that I would have understood the concepts quite well, so that if I have to answer any of the problem questions in one of the major assessments, then I'm actually in a position to do so because I've understood quite well and mastered the concepts. Now, I would like to emphasize that there is no way around the need for you to actually read the textbook. So the textbooks, reading the prescribed textbook is crucial. The lecture notes prepared by Dr. Anthony Marinac are very important, and they're quite helpful and very informative. But the whole point about lecture notes is that they're just meant to be supplementary aids to your learning. So you need to be able to study on your own by going through the textbook. The best way for you to have a better understanding, for example, of any legal concept is actually to go through the subject at least twice. So in other words, if all you do is just to read the textbook once, there is a good chance that you will miss out some of the nuances of the legal principles involved in contracts law. And at the same time, you'll probably not be able to fully understand it, because it does take at least 2 readings before you can be in a position to confidently say that you have a good grasp of what the legal principles are. So that would be my suggestion. Now, at the same time, the lecture videos, which Anthony Marinac has prepared, are also very helpful. And what I intend to do would be just to come up with a supplementary video if I feel the need for a supplementary video, because the lecture videos that Anthony prepared are obviously quite helpful, and they're comprehensive. And I don't want to have to repeat the wheel by coming up with another, which is just exactly the same as Anthony has prepared. So I would encourage you to go through the lecture videos with Anthony, and when I feel the need, I'll come up with a supplementary video. Now, I would also encourage you to join the online tutorials each week, because these are opportunities for us to dig deeper into certain key cases by examining a case problem. And in doing so, not only do you improve your mastery and understanding of legal principles, it actually exposes you and trains you how to write good legal answers. So it's one thing for you to know what the answer might be, but for you to actually express and communicate on paper what you know requires a certain skill. And so therefore, joining the tutorial sessions allows you to be exposed to the way that you should be responding to problem questions. And more importantly, or just as important, it just allows you to be part of that community of learners where you know that there are others who are similarly situated as you, who are just as interested in learning all there is about contracts law. And therefore that puts you in a situation or in an environment which can potentially be supportive, because you all have a common goal of completing this learning journey, and then adding that that sense of accomplishment to your goal of eventually becoming an Australian solicitor. So having said that, perhaps there might be some of you who might have any questions that you wish to clarify, and this will be a good time for me to answer them. Would there be any?
So I was just wondering where we could find those lectures that you were talking about by Jonathan or Anthony. Sorry.
Anthony, the lecture videos.
Yes.
They're actually on the Moodle page itself. So if you examine every single page, so you have there the topic 1 and topic 2, underneath or in those sections would actually be the lecture videos of Anthony, as well as the lecture notes.
Okay, cool. I couldn't find them, but thank you.
Yeah. Now,
just one more question. Sorry, I was looking at topic 2, and it says at the very beginning week 4. So do we not start topic 2 till week 4?
That could have been a mistake. We start topic 2 in week 3.
In week 3.
Yeah, because we're taking up the first topic in week 2, and so therefore we will be discussing topic 2 in week 3.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. The other thing is, I would encourage you to constantly email me if you have any questions. Feel free to send me an email, and I will do my best to respond as soon as I could. It's important that we have this constant communication, because again, there will be moments when you feel confused, and there are times when you feel like it's important that you seek a clarification, and I would welcome that. And this is part of my job to do that for you and with you. So please feel free to flick me an email, and I'd be very happy to answer them. I think I also I received an email from one of the students asking if I was going to go through some of their answers, which they may pose as an answer to the discussion question or the tutorial question. And the answer would be that yes, I will go through all the answers, but I will likely not be able to provide individual feedback in relation to the answers that are submitted in the discussion question forum. The assessment pages are locked. Are they? Okay, I'm gonna have a look why they are when they shouldn't be. Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna have a look at that, Tiffany, to make sure that they are unlocked. I was actually just going through all the each of those pages earlier to make sure that I have the correct dates. And so perhaps I may have failed to unlock them. I didn't realize that I had to, but I'm gonna have a look after our tutorial session tonight. Questions, comments, concerns you might have?
Sorry, I'm taking both contracts A and admin at the same time.
Yes.
And it looks like the exams overlap.
In terms of the final written take-home paper?
Yes.
Really? I'm going to have a look. I would have thought that that wasn't the case.
Yeah, it looks like they're both in the same day, like the starting period for it.
Okay, I'm gonna have a look. But if that is the case, I'm always prepared to just extend the deadline to submit the final take-home paper, so that you don't become disadvantaged. But I'll have a look just to make sure that that really isn't the case. If it is, I won't be changing the deadlines, but I will extend the deadline to submit the final take-home paper.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Questions? So again, I just really wish to emphasize that, you know, it's a good thing that we are talking about this at the very start, because I really wish to emphasize that there is a very high attrition rate in an online program. The attrition rate is quite high. It can go anywhere easily between 20 to 30% of those who failed to withdraw on census date. So, I mean, if you withdraw on the census date, then you will not be included as, you won't be counted as among those who later on needs to complete the course. But when I say that there is a high attrition rate of between 20% to 30% of students in most of the online courses that we have, it does suggest that there was the initial motivation on the part of the student to finish the course, but then was probably confronted with major challenges which prevented that person from completing the course. I just want you to be very aware that you are likely to face challenges. It could be in your personal lives, it could be in your work, and you need to be able to think about these in advance. And you know, you just have to create that routine every day, every week, to make sure that just because you have a flexible study mode does not really give you the freedom and the liberty to not study or not to prepare. So you have to, you know, impose yourself that self-discipline of ensuring that you do put in the necessary effort and time to studying for the course. Now, there was a question by Peter. Can you explain the quiz? Yep. So we're going to have an online quiz. What would happen is that I will be preparing certain questions, which are multiple choice questions. And, you know, you just choose the correct answer. What it also means is that you will only be able to access the online quizzes at the proper time. In other words, when the time has been set for the online quiz to be taken, that's only the time when you're able to access the quiz. You're likely to be given at least 72 hours to complete the quiz, but you're only allowed to take the quiz one time. And from the time you open the quiz, is that my internet or somebody else's internet? So, but once you've opened the quiz, I think there is a requirement that you need to finish it within a set time, which could be a matter of 1 or 2 or 3 hours. So the quiz would actually be short. It's a short quiz, something you could easily finish in less than 30 minutes, probably in about 20 minutes. You could get it done. So, but you would want to avoid just trying to make an educated guess. In other words, if you try to take the quiz without having prepared for it because you failed to read the textbook, for example, chances are you will struggle, because a lot of the principles in contract law are quite counterintuitive. So you can't just use your own everyday experience to try to answer a case problem. You really need to read the textbook, especially because contract law is mainly founded on the common law system, which means that a lot of what we know to be part of contract law is based on decisions of judges, and therefore based on judicial precedents. And so therefore, because they're based on judicial precedents, what it means is that a lot of this information is not publicly available. You will only know what they are by going through the textbook, because it is in the textbook that the authors have succeeded and managed to kind of organize all these bodies of knowledge in a textbook, so that it's easier for us to become familiar with what constitutes contract law. So you would really need to prepare for the online quizzes by going through the textbook and watching the lecture videos, as well as going through the lecture notes. Any other questions that you might have?
Can I just ask, are we allowed to, can we get the textbook online at all?
I would think that the textbook by Wilmot actually has an ebook.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful.
So you can buy the ebook. Yeah, you should be able to do that.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Now, let me just say something about myself, because we're going to be spending about the next 12 weeks. So I've been with the law discipline for about almost 2 years now. I started working with the Central Queensland University in September of 2013, initially as a lecturer in the learning and teaching services under Professor Rob Reed. And then I got invited by Professor Stephen Colbrand to be part of the law discipline. So I am a lawyer in the Philippines, as well as a barrister and solicitor in New Zealand. And I spent 5 years in New Zealand at the University of Auckland to finish my PhD. And previous to that, I lived in the Philippines. But it was quite fortunate for me and my family, obviously, to have had the chance to live in Australia, because this is just such a beautiful country. So, and I now live in Brisbane. Okay, a question from Sophie. Do we have a scope for the online quiz? Yes, the online quiz will be based on the previous topic. So let's say if you have an online quiz in week 4, the coverage will be the first 3 weekly topics. And the one for I'm not sure if it's on week 6 or week 7 that we have the next online quiz, but in that case, for the succeeding quiz, it will be based on the topics that had not been previously covered by the first quiz. And again, only in relation to the topics prior to the online quiz date. So how is everybody? I mean, are you excited? Would this be your first time to be doing the LLB? Or have you previously taken courses in the law discipline prior to today? What are the challenges?
This is
yes?
the second semester. I did intro law last semester, and I did statutory interpretation last semester as well.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. It's also important for you to remember that really you need to kind of really learn contract law, because a lot of the principles here are from Lisa. She's her second law subject. That's good. A lot of the principles that we cover in contracts will be crucial in understanding property law, for example, or even equity. So from Jessica, oh, it's meant to be private, but it's not really a private question. Oh, okay, I'll answer that, Jessica, perhaps later, if it's not meant to be private. No, but I mean, it's a question that's relevant for all. You will be expected to read some of the cases, and I'm going to make them visible, I think, by tonight, some of the cases which I think are important for you to read. But otherwise, the important thing is for you to just read the textbook. It will help to be able to read the cases in the original, but the textbook should be more than sufficient. Anything else? So Dominique, it is her first semester and excited to be studying law. Yeah, before you know it, the 3 years is going to be over, and then you become admitted as a solicitor of Queensland, for example. That'll be neat. And it's always a major sense of accomplishment to be able to finish an LLB and to become a lawyer. Even if at some point you decide not to practice law in the sense of joining a law firm, the mere fact that you have a knowledge of the law can be quite helpful, because whether you're an accountant, or you're a contractor, or you're a builder, or even an engineer, a knowledge of the law is always helpful, because every single profession is always affected by the legal framework. And so a knowledge of the law, whether it's a knowledge of contracts or even a knowledge of administrative law, will help you navigate most of the daily transactions of life. Because again, embedded in everything that we do in society is an implicit understanding that there is an overarching legal system that operates. Because in other words, if there are no laws, then we wouldn't know what to expect every time we transact with other persons. So having that knowledge of the law will help you know about what your rights might be and what your potential remedies might be if you feel like there has been a breach of any of your rights. There's a question as well from Dominique. Will you be referring all of the cases to Queensland? I live in New South Wales. In fact, a lot of the one thing we need to understand is that as far as contract law is concerned, we don't really have a Commonwealth statute that just focuses on contract law, because contract law is mainly based on the common law system. So we don't rely on statute, and for that reason, we rely mainly on judicial precedents. And if we speak of judicial precedents, for example, we will see that we are being exposed to a lot of the cases that have been decided in the past in the UK, or even by the Privy Council. So these are the kind of judicial decisions that we're facing. But at the same time, we will also be exposed to the decisions of the courts of New South Wales or the courts of Queensland, because these decisions made by the state courts are actually part of that body of the common law system, which help elucidate what key principles are of contract law. So as you go through the textbook, you will come across necessarily of cases that pertain to contract law, and these are cases that would have been decided by a state Supreme Court, for example, of Queensland, or even that of the New South Wales. Now, in relation to the legislation, this would typically be part of Australian consumer law, or issues about what to do when there's a problem concerning privity, for example, and where the state parliaments may have decided that it was crucial for them to intervene because they may not be quite happy with the state of the common law. So the thing about the common law system is that the common law system is part of the law of the land, but it is within the power of the Commonwealth and the states to actually displace the common law. So if, for example, if the state parliaments or the Commonwealth Parliament feels that the common law system is unable to adequately meet the needs of society, or because the principles that are part of the common law system are not conducive to the way that our society operates today, then it may just decide to pass legislation pertaining to some aspects of contracts. But if we talk about what basically is the source of law as far as contract law is concerned, it's based mainly on case law, and for the purpose, it's based mainly on the common law system or the judicial precedents.
Sorry, can I just ask a question with regards to the planning assignment?
Yes.
I was looking at it before it got hidden in the Moodle because it was available a couple of days ago, which is weird, and now it's disappeared.
It's not, okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was pretty vague. But are we allowed to submit that, say, in a PowerPoint or some creative form, or do we just do it in a Word document? Like, how detailed do we need to be in our planning and describing what issues we're going to face and that sort of thing?
That's a good question. The first thing I would like to emphasize is that in anything you do, you need to be quite strategic in the sense that in anything that you do, you want to be able to correlate the amount of effort you're putting into something with the kind of grades that you hope to get out of it. So in relation to the semester plan, there are two aspects to the semester plan as far as every student is concerned. One is, even had a semester plan not been graded, would it really be helpful for me to spend time trying to prepare, come up with a semester plan for me to, consider how to complete the course? That's one. The second aspect is, because the semester plan is in fact graded and it only comprises so I use the word only, and it only comprises 5% of the final grade, it tells you that you shouldn't be devoting more time than is necessary to complete the task. So going to the question of how detailed should it be, it's really up to you in the end. I would imagine that the crucial things you need to identify in the semester plan would be, what challenges or obstacles do you foresee that can prevent you from successfully completing the course? So I think this is the kind of question that you should be really thinking about. What are the challenges and obstacles that you can possibly face that would make it difficult for you to complete the course? Or if you were to state it in the alternative, what might cause you not to complete the course? So you have to think about these questions, right? So what might cause you not to complete the course? You'd have to say, what if I get sick? What if I separate from my boyfriend, or my marriage breaks up? These things. So it's important that you be able to consider these types of questions. So you have that. Now, having identified, therefore, what you feel are the potential obstacles and challenges that will hinder or even prevent you from completing the course, then come up with a plan. What do you need to do to ensure that, you don't have to face those challenges? Or if you were to face those challenges, how exactly do you overcome them? Now, the other aspect of coming up with a semester plan is obviously to come up with a goal. What exactly is your goal in this course? Is it just all about passing the course? Or can you set a goal of hoping, to come up with a high distinction, or at least a distinction as your final grade? So you need to be able to come up with a goal. Because if you don't have a goal, then chances are you're not going to be putting in the needed effort that would have been commensurate to the kind of goals that you have. So obviously, if you're aiming for a high distinction, then it obviously means you need to spend more time and more effort than usual, than the ordinary. So the goal setting is crucial. And obviously, once you've created the goal, then you have to figure out, what is it that you need to do? What is it that I need to do to get a high distinction? So it will probably mean that if you're aiming for a high distinction, for example, it will likely be insufficient for you to just read the textbook once, because contract law can be quite complicated, and there are just so many exceptions to the general rule that for you to be able to master it, you really need to at least read it twice. And so, as part of the semester plan, you need to figure out what are the things I need to do. So I need to study. And it also means that you have to come up with the set hours. Like, I need to devote for this course alone, for contracts, I need to devote perhaps, I don't know, maybe 5 hours. And if I devote 5 hours to studying contract law, it means that I will likely be reading about 50, 60 pages each week. And to make sure that I, in fact, read 50 to 60 pages each week, it means that every time I study for an hour, I need to be able to read at least 10 pages. Now, if you're not doing that because the going seems to be slower than you expected, then you need to adjust your plan. So remember, the semester plan that you have is not something that you set in stone. It is not meant to be something that is calcified and becomes permanent. You're supposed to be making adjustments as you move on. But one of the crucial things you need to do is you need to come up with a clear plan on how to cover, meaning how to read through all the weekly topics in the textbook. So you're going to be reading from page 1, let's say, all the way to, let's say, page 600. How exactly do you do that? So on which weeks will you be reading these specific pages? That's part of the semester plan. And so therefore, if you have set that plan and you're missing the target, then you need to make some adjustment. It will have to mean that, you might have to double your efforts the next week if you fail to put in the kind of effort that was expected initially. So that's, again, part of the semester plan. But I would argue that you really need to be able to come up with a clear goal as to the kind of grade you're hoping to get when you do contracts. So in sum, as far, therefore, as the semester plan is concerned, so as to the question of, how much effort should I be putting in, it's worth 5% of the final marks. But note that it's not just about getting a grade in contracts. It's really all about planning to make sure that you complete the course successfully, and not just successfully completing the course, but as important, for you to have a clear idea as to the kind of grade you're hoping to get when you finish the course successfully. And having come up with a goal, then you need to create a plan. And that means, as I said, determining the number of hours you're going to be devoting each time, coming up with a clear timetable as to when you'll be reading, a set number of pages each time, and perhaps the kind of working hours or study hours that you will need to introduce into your week. Given the fact that you're obviously going to be facing other challenges, whether it's work commitments or family commitments. So these are some of the factors that you need to consider as you come up with the semester plan. So from Amelia, that there was a week's worth of effort. Yeah, but the thing about a week's worth of effort is that that's quite vague. Because when you say it's a week's worth of effort, if you translate that into number of hours, how many hours would that be? Because to one person, that person may only be allocating 2 hours for that's good. Yeah, 10 hours per subject. Yeah, that will be a good target. That will be a good target, I think. Yes. Now, some of you may decide, 6 hours will be fine. I think 6 hours might, in fact, be sufficient. But if you're aiming to have a better grade, you really need to devote more than 6 hours. 10 hours would be, I think, a minimum if you want to come up with a good mark or a good grade in contracts. Any other questions that you might have? None? So I guess we're all good. And as I said, feel free to send me an email if you have a question. So it's just the first day, and well, it is a good thing to be talking about these things to prepare yourselves on how to complete the course. So it's a good thing that you're in this tutorial right now. And so, well, we're going to begin discussing the topic on one of the topics on contract law when we meet again on Monday. So would it be okay for us to end tonight's session? We're a bit 10 minutes early. We're good, or will there be any questions that you might want to raise in the meantime? Yes, Peter, did you want to raise something? I think you might have to unmute yourself. I could do it for you. Yes, Peter.
Okay. Sorry. Can you hear me okay?
I could hear you well.
Okay. I was just going through the notes of the various weeks.
Yes.
And they seem to be a little bit out of order. Like the original notes said week 1 or week 2 was such and such, and week 3 was, and now it's week 2 is actually week 4, and yes, week 6 is week 9. Is right. That being corrected?
I'm currently correcting that. I should have the corrected notes at the end of the week. The reason for that is that I actually changed the structure or the organization of the weekly topics, because when Anthony Marinac taught contracts law, and he's been teaching it for quite some time now, he has his own system of teaching it. And I felt that it might be helpful for me to be teaching it following the organization of the topics according to the book by Wilmot, or the book or our prescribed textbook. So I will be making those changes to make sure that you don't get confused, because they can be quite confusing. So I'm just working on them now. Would there be anything else?
Yes, Manjo, I just wanted to ask if these sessions are going to be every Monday at this time?
Yes, it will be. Always on Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. AEST. And all the tutorial sessions are also going to be recorded. And as soon as
okay, so we can actually review
watch the recording. They will have to be uploaded on YouTube, but the link to the YouTube video will then be posted in Moodle according to the corresponding week.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that.
Okay. Okay. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you on Monday next week. Thank you. Bye.